Private Andrew Slatton served in the 2nd Iowa Infantry during the Civil War. His regiment took part in the famous charge at Fort Donelson in February of 1862. On February 15th, Slatton was wounded 3 times during that infamous charge. He wrote the following letter from his hospital bed in St. Louis to his father. Dear Father, you have heard all about the battle fought here, and it is no use for me to describe it. We had to stay out all night on the 14th without tents or blankets, and it was very cold. I suffered more that night from cold than ever before in my life. The boys said they would rather storm the enemy's works on the morrow than to stand the hardships of that night. The usual mishaps of remaining without provisions befell us, but we got some pilot bread and some bacon just before going into battle about 12 o'clock Saturday the 15th. Our regiment was on the extreme left, and it fell to our lot to lead the charge on the enemy's breastworks to the right. These breastworks were not in range of the gunboats, and field artillery could not reach them, so there was no chance but for the infantry to rush right over them. At the place where we charged, the rebel works were on top of a high hill with heavy timber fallen in all directions to prevent our approach. But it was no use. When we received the order forward, we went up the hill in a full run, the rebels dropping our boys in rows, and we could not fire a shot until we got inside the breastworks. Then it was our time. The rebels ran in all directions, and we dropped them as they ran. I was lucky enough to escape unhurt till we got to the 2nd embankment of the enemy, where just across the hollow in the 3rd entrenchment, a large body of rebels continued to fire on us. I got my eye on a bunch of them and took sight every time I shot. Sometimes I could see a man drop. Thought at the time that I had killed 3. While I was shooting in this bunch, I received a shot in the shin, about halfway from the knee to the ankle, causing a break in the small bone and making 2 holes in the calf of my leg. The surgeon says one was made by the ball and the other by a piece of bone. Before I was wounded, I had my gun spoiled by being hit with a ball, so I had to take a fallen man's gun and used it. I was wounded about 1 o'clock, and it took me till nearly sundown to crawl off, and I almost froze. I was slightly wounded twice in leaving the field, once in the head by a small piece of shell, and once on the forefinger on the right hand, splitting the knuckle. Neither of these wounds amounts to much. My wounds are not dangerous, and I would write plainer but for the wound on my knuckle. Yours affectionately, Andrew Slatton. Unfortunately, Private Slatton was incorrect about the severity of his wounds, and he would die in the hospital in St. Louis in April of 1862, leaving a wife and 1 child. He was 28 years old.